Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name is Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It's been a really cold, wet, and windy week so far. Today is slightly better. There's a little bit of blue sky today, but it is really, really cold. I just looked at my weather app and it says it's 10 degrees, but it feels like 5.7. So, um, hence the big warm woolly jumper, and it's lovely in here right now in the shed. It's my first week of school holidays. I'm also off next week. So this week I haven't done all that much, which has actually been really lovely. With this cycle of working in a school, and if you're a teacher or work in a school, you probably feel the same way as I do. It's very easy to get into that routine of hard for 10, 11 weeks, and then you really look forward to those couple of weeks off where you can just completely do nothing, and then you get back onto that treadmill again. My first few days of holidays, I was quite motivated to get a few things done tidy wise and house-wise, and then I've literally been enjoying not much of anything while I've been sitting and watching really crappy Netflix movies and doing quite a bit of crafting. So I've got a little bit to share with you this week. Before I get to that, a catch up on what I've been doing. Last Friday night was Sebastian, my nephew's presentation ball. So we spent the day, Deb and I, getting our hair and makeup done, and then we went into the city and stayed in a hotel. Went out for a really quick early dinner at about 5 o'clock because we weren't going to be eating the dinner at the presentation evening that was at the Melbourne Town Hall until about 9. There was no way I was going to last that long. I was lucky to be awake that long, especially in the middle of winter. I am for sure in bed and asleep by about 9 o'clock. So yeah, went for an early dinner and then caught a tram down to the town hall. Had a really fun time. It was great to see them do all of their dances and how well it all came together, and then to see them really celebrate and enjoy their whole like year level at the end of the night as well. As a family, we did one of those transition videos, which I'll pop in here. You can't see me, my time is now. It's the franchise where I'm shining now. You can't see me. And I was really happy with how my outfit came out. It was a Halara jumpsuit that was like pants, but with a dress over the top, and I added a little sparkly belt. I had sparkly shoes as well, but I did carry a pair of flats with me that I changed into near the end of the night for a little bit of dancing and to be able to walk back to the hotel. And my shawl that I talked about last week, which was a big piece of glittery fabric that we had hemmed the edges of. And I really only needed that on the to and from the hotel, not while we're in the venue. It was quite warm, but I'm glad that I'd made it, and it went really well with my whole outfit. Now that we're at midwinter, I pruned my roses. So that garden area is now looking quite neat and tidy. And as the days are gradually getting a little bit longer again, I'm already seeing some jonquils grow in that garden bed, as well as some of the other early spring, late winter flowers. So I've got some nice color through there as well. And my roses are now all short and ready for a big spring growth spurt. As I said at the beginning, I did do a little bit of extra house tidying, moving stuff around. I feel like at the beginning of every holiday, I get this sort of spurt of motivation to do that kind of thing. I began with just vacuum the floor and clean down the tiles in the kitchen. And then I started to sort of pull a bit of furniture out to really get in behind and do the baseboards and things like that. And I ended up completely rearranging my living room. I moved the TV to the opposite wall and changed around how I did my couches. I feel doing that really kind of freshens the place up and gives you a different perspective. And then it was a nice thing to do as sort of like a start of the holiday reset to then be able to sit and knit without any guilt. and to get a different view from my normal chair to the outside, and to just enjoy being in the house. I've kind of set up two crafting chairs now. So I've got my long couch that I can sit on, and then I've also got my recliner, and they're beside each other. So I can switch between the two and kind of spread my craft out over the whole couch, and it gives the cats somewhere right beside me to sit. So they may not necessarily be on me, but they're still sitting with me. And that's been a really good thing this past week. On the lines of being on holiday, I have also not really been motivated to do any yarn dyeing yet. I thought about it the other day. Let's start, right? I put some sock yarn into soak, so it's actually ready to go. So maybe today, maybe over the weekend, I will get back into doing some yarn dyeing. My initial plan was that I was going to do some yesterday, but it was so cold and so wet and so windy that when I woke up in the morning, I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay in bed and have the heater on and not really move for the entire day. And I think that was a wise decision. I have done my spreadsheets for the end of the financial year. So when the rest of my tax stuff is ready, I will be able to really easily pop that in. I think part of what's making me not do anything right now is that it is still a while until my next market. So there's no pressing deadlines for me right now. So it's just about whether I want to get in and get a lot prepared. And knowing how wet and cold it is, and anything that I dye now is going to take quite a while to dry. So it feels much more productive during summer to be able to do a lot of dyeing because I can turn it over really, really quickly. First to what I'm wearing this week, this is the comfy jumper. It is in the 52 Weeks of Easy Knits book. I don't actually know the designer. That's the trouble with those books. I just kind of refer to it as the book, like when you buy something on Etsy and you say you bought it off Etsy, not actually from the seller. It is made in my own yarn in my DK in the teal not green colorway, held with my wispy lace mohair in the wildflowers colorway, and then the little rolled edges or um, bind off is in just the teal not green. This is super, super warm. I've only got a really short sleeve t-shirt on under here. And as I was walking over to the shed, it was really, really windy. I did not feel the wind at all. So this is the perfect cold winter day jumper. Once I had rearranged the furniture in my house, I had my lovely little craft area, and I've spent quite a bit of time knitting and crocheting this week. When I was doing that little tidy up and everything, I realized that I didn't have that many cloths left for wiping down my kitchen bench and for cleaning my coffee machine. So I've made a couple of scrubby cloths in crochet. They're very different sizes, and I use different stitches in each. I was experimenting with this yarn. It is the rip the tag. It's the Sugar and Cream Scrub. And this is I think this is called Very Purple colorway. It is really hard on the hands to work. The cotton is fine, but this scrub part really hurts, and it's really fine. So the texture between and the gauge between the two is really different. And they're basically just held together with knots. And when you get to this part, it's then really hard to see your holes and the tops of the chains to be able to crochet in. So I'm pretty sure that I gained or lost stitches somewhere along the way. I did this one first, and I did all of this in just double crochet. I started at this end and then finished with this. I had more of this left, but then I didn't want to cast on with this because I thought it was going to be really hard. I didn't go corner to corner. I just did a chain and then just worked back and forth. So it'll be interesting to see how this scrubby part actually cleans and performs. And then this second one, because I was finding it so hard to work this scrub section, for this one, I changed to trebles for the scrub part, and then I just worked into the holes until I went back to the cotton, and then I went back to just double crochets. So 2 new scrubbies that I'm going to try out, and I have a bit more of a ball of that, and I have a lemon orange color as well, which I started to knit with quite a while ago, and that was really hurting my hands worse than doing the crochet, so I'll probably rip that out and go back to doing crochet. And I used a 5.5 millimeter hook, so quite large. So I'm hoping that is going to work for wiping down things in my kitchen. Now onto my knitting. I've done quite a lot of sock knitting. Definitely back on to the sock knitting love at the moment. I am wearing the rainbow socks, the DK socks that I showed you last week. They are so lovely and warm. It's nice to have them high up on my legs, and they feel really soft and cozy inside my gumboots, which is perfect. So now I'm working on the bed socks that I talked about last week. This is in the Zilana Cozy in the Berry Bramble colorway. And this is the second sock. I finished the first one. I did just do another rolled cuff. I'm getting quite lazy with not doing any ribbing on my socks lately, but in terms of making them stay up, that's fine. It sort of gets to a point on your mid calf where they'll stay up at that point, and then after that they kind of tend to roll. So this is, when I fold it down, it'll end up coming to about my, just below my mid calf probably. So yeah, first one finished. I'm about to do the heel turn on the second, so that's quite a lot of progress. This is how much I had left of the first ball. I started a second ball, and I for sure have a third ball of this. So I think I should be able to make at least another pair this long, which will replace the 2 pairs of bed socks that I currently have, or house socks that I have, that have holes in the heels. So I'm really enjoying getting back onto the sock knitting. I think it's these needles. These are the Addy Crazy Trios, and they're really quick to use compared to the to doing Magic Loop. I think if I was doing 2 at a time Magic Loop, it would be quicker than doing 1 at a time. So I might do 2 at a time Magic Loop for my next ones and see how it feels, what the difference feels like. But I'm really enjoying these little needles, and it's been really perfect TV knitting. And I've been pulling these out. I think I told you this last week. I've been pulling these out. Quinn will come and sit on my lap and sit on my other project. So I have this as well. And when he sits on that one, I can then pick this up and continue doing knitting. Or I'd be doing this in the evening after I've decided that I don't want to use my brain parts anymore. And I'm continuing to be monogamous on my big project. This is the EXP by Sanna & Co. in the colorway kit by Louie and Lola. This is the bronze, and this is Callow. And I've shown this colorway to so many people, and they were like, I would never have chosen these 2 colors, but when they see it in the actual garment, they're in love with it. And so am I, absolutely in love. So I have done quite a lot since last week. I think I was just picking up the first sleeve stitches last week. I have completely finished the first sleeve, and I'll show you the inside first because I think that really, the fabric, that's how it looks when it's combined together. Isn't that amazing? It's really, really pretty, and I'm really looking forward to wearing it. I have tried it on. It's fitting really well. It does need a block width-wise and a little bit length, depth as well. I am making really good progress on the second sleeve. I think I've just finished the last lot of decreases, so now I've got about 10 more rows left, and then the cuff, and then the sleeves will be done. I have not entirely followed the pattern for the sleeves. So I'm hoping that the notes that I wrote for the first one match and that this one is going to be the same as the first. So my modifications so far, I don't know what I did, but my numbers didn't work out in terms of the decreases. So I have done the correct number of decreases for the size that I'm knitting, but I have ended up with the stitch count for the next size up. So I'm not going to stress about that, but I've done it on the second sleeve and I think I'm at the same number. So that means that whatever mistake I made very early on and it's all matching up and that is completely fine. The other change that I made is that I didn't do, it recommends doing like a long 1x1 rib cuff on the end. And I've only done that tiny little bit there, And the reason I've done that is because I thought that it'd look better if it all matched together. So that means that it matches the hem on the neckline and it will match the hem on the bottom of the jumper as well to just do a little bit. I think it's coming to my elbow, which I think is a good length, especially when I block it out widthwise, it'll come up a little bit more. It is a really light fabric, even though there's 2 yarns. It's not double thickness. So I'm thinking that it'll end up being like a spring and autumn piece. And so having mid-length sleeves will work really well for me. I think it'll open up too and be a little wider, so it won't like hug my sleeve. So if I wanted to, I could put something longer underneath and that would still look really nice. And I did an Italian bind off, which is the sewn bind off on the end. I think it said a tubular bind off. I think they're reasonably interchangeable and it looks really nice. The other modification that I made was with the raglan section under the sleeve. So for the first one, it says to pick up the stitches that you have on your holder with your main colour and then graft it together. And I was like, is that really going to make that much of a difference? Maybe it does. But what I've done is I have just done a 3 needle bind off in the main colour. So that's it from the inside. And I'll put a picture of what it looks like on the outside. And I'm really happy with how that looks. And it has enough stretch to be able to be blocked out, but it's not really loose. So I think it's going to give that underarm a little bit of structure. So once I had done that on the first sleeve, which I did after I'd finished knitting the sleeve, instead of waiting until I'd finished knitting the sleeve, I've actually already done the 3 needle bind off on the second side. And by starting at the body end of the 3 needle bind off and working towards the armhole, I then didn't have to cut my yarn at all. I used the main colour for the 3 needle bind off. Then I had 1 stitch left at the underarm, and it says to cast on 1 stitch at the underarm to create the right number of stitches and to make sure that your pattern is correct. So I still had that 1 stitch from the end of that bind off, and then I could just pick up my stitches that were on holder and keep going. So a slight change there, but I don't think it's a significant enough change to make a huge difference to the pattern. I do have to, there's a hole under the underarm that I need to fix, which I've got a long tail to be able to do there. But I feel like it's created a nice neat edge. I've got you can see my changeover and my decreases down there. So I might have this finished by next week. I will do a little bit more length. Once I've finished this sleeve, I'm going to try it on again, and that'll give me a true indication of what my length is like, and I'm going to make a final decision on how much more I want to do at the bottom before I do that, like 3 rows of cuff like I've done on the sleeve. I feel I've got quite a lot of high-waisted pants, so I don't want to have them too long. I might end up doing it about the same length as this jumper is here, which is sitting like right on my waistband. So then if you've got a top underneath, um, it's not going to create any bulk or anything, and it'll sit quite nicely. So I'm really excited to almost have this done. I am, as I have been the last few weeks, I'm still dreaming of what my next project might be, and I don't have a fully formed idea yet. So yeah, working on this and really excited to have hopefully a finished object next week. Well, that's it for another week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.